Hey, yeah, what's up? This disciple Marcello Currents reign back up in this anti-Illuminati all day, anti-America all day. Yeah, so this message is going to be about um, Donald Trump was in office when the last child marriage law was passed. Donald Trump was in office when the last child marriage law was passed. This is how relevant this is. For people that think that, oh, these are dusty laws that no one believes in anymore. No one thinks like that anymore, right? Nobody feels this way, right? Then why did the last child marriage law get passed under the Trump administration? That's a 7. And here y'all are trying to put him back in office. Well, I don't think he's a good commander in chief if he's letting that get past his radar. Oh, he's helpless in this situation. He can do nothing. The president of the United States can do nothing about a child marriage law. You would have me to believe that. When he can make executive orders to do this, executive orders to do that, but he can't make an executive order concerning child marriage law. That's a 7 out, boom. Well, I think you got it all messed up now, don't you? That's another thing he got messed up. When your authorities, at least up to the White House, definitely up to the president or vice president, cannot make executive orders concerning the safety of children, concerning child laws concerning children. They can't make executive orders, so to speak, per se, to cancel these laws, veto these laws, destroy these laws when they get into office. So if a new president get into office, he can't come in and pass an executive order, so to speak, against child marriage laws. That can't happen specifically concerning child marriage laws. Then your law system isn't sophisticated enough according to the times now, is it? Hey, I don't think your American law system is sophisticated according to its surroundings, according to what's already been done. Well, if you know these lawmakers, politicians are passing child marriage laws, then the next thing that needs to happen is someone passes a certain kind of law that allows the president and the vice president to make executive order actions that will destroy and dismantle child marriage laws. This is the counter. What else you gonna do? That needs to go immediately. That's how you need to think. Not, oh, we're gonna work on it. See, that's what they tried to do. Perfect example of them trying to work on something. I'm glad this came up like it did. This is a perfect example of them trying to work on something. The last child law was passed July 1st, 2019. This is the law that I'm talking about that was passed under the Trump administration. Right? This law first started out with 12 states, and I think it went up to 20, but it definitely was 12, right? Now, as of this year, it's down to 9. So they tried to work on it, and for whatever reason, whatever states that once had it decided within 3 years that they didn't want it anymore. Now, maybe that's the change of seats, change of positions, the change of authorities. I'm guessing, because I don't know somebody will pass it and then say, I don't think I like that law. Let's get rid of it. So it might have been the changing of authorities, right? But it's still an example of what I'm talking about. Working on it. We're going to work on it. This is how politics has been working for how long? Anyway, this perspective of we're going to work on it. We're going to work on it. We're going to work on it. Okay, meanwhile, people are still subject to it. That's a 7 hour. Whatever you call yourself working on, however long we have to wait, everyone is subject to the repercussions from God. Yeah, we forget about that part. And the children are subject to it. They're still getting tossed into child marriage if the parents agree with it. If parties agree with it and it happens, I mean, the parties agree with it and they want to go through with it, well, those kids are still subject to that. While you're talking about working on it. And here's my thing. If you really had a problem with it, all these politicians, listen, they did that this year. They tried to get rid of some of it. But see, that lets you know, that tells on the mentality even more. Okay, how are you trying to work on something? How are you trying to work on something? Like this, where it's child marriage law. How do you call yourself working on it? You either agree with this or you don't. You demolish it altogether as a system. I'm sure there's some upper authority that sees all of this, but hasn't expressed their needs to get rid of all child marriage laws. No one's trying to do that, right? And I'm pretty sure, like I said, there's some higher ups, some higher authorities that can see all these states that have child marriage law that's new and passed July 1st, 2019, that allows adults to marry children at no minimum age, meaning any age. They can marry children at any age. All right, they just passed that law July 1st, 2019. Okay? So how can you take people seriously that decide to just leave a little bit of it? Just work on it a little bit. Let's just do what we can. Someone's seen this law passed. Someone knows the entirety of it. And they have not voiced the entirety of it. They haven't voiced it. They have not voiced it. So here we are, where we have a new child marriage law, July 1st, 2019. Like I tell people, this law was passed a year before COVID. You know what that means? It will always be relevant. This law passed July 1st, 2019 will always be relevant for that reason. I tell somebody, oh, the last child marriage law was passed a year before COVID. Oh, really? You tell people that 5 years from now, a year before COVID, when you say that, it's going to be relevant. Wow, the last child marriage law was passed a year before COVID came. It's forever relevant because of how you can say how famous COVID-19 is. It's going to be forever relevant. And yet half of your community does not know that this law was passed. They don't know. Okay, so let's get to the person that was in the highest authority when this last child marriage law was passed. Let's get to this person. It would be none other than Donald Trump. You should have guessed this. His personality, his crass behavior, how he thinks, how he carries himself, the nastiness of his attitude. You don't think it's something real dark that he would do? Well, you already know that with the situation of the election. And now we find out that he tampered with it. Well, that's not all. What also happened was, I say it like that. What also happened was July 1st, 2019, when he was in office, the last child marriage law was passed. Now, This is the facts. I need you to meditate on that just a little bit. The last child marriage law, or laws, because it's more than one state, so you might as well say laws. The last child marriage laws in numerous states, starting at 12, I believe. Now it's 9. Those laws, the last child marriage laws, those laws were passed under the Trump administration. Those last laws were passed under the Trump administration. When Trump was in office as the president, these laws were passed. These are the last child marriage laws. Now, if that doesn't tell you how relevant this perspective is, then it's nothing else that I can tell someone like you. Everybody else is on board except you. Well, if the last child marriage law was passed under the Trump administration, this is totally relevant. Anybody doubt that? And this isn't just one person that passed it. This was a joint effort. Okay, you got 9+ states that were involved in passing these child marriage laws. They got together, right? That's already more than one person. Well, you got more than one state. That's more than one person. You had not 12 states plus, but definitely 12 states that passed July 1st, 2019. July 1st, 2019. A child marriage law that allows adults to marry children at any age. This law was a joint effort of your American government under the Trump administration. This was recently, in other words. Half a decade is recently. Half a decade is pretty recent. This was less than a decade. Most people would say less than a decade is recently. This was a year before COVID when this law was passed. A year before COVID. Just a year before COVID. In fact, by July 1st, 2020, COVID was full blown. COVID was on the scene. And I personally believe that this last child marriage law was also part of why we are being judged with plagues by God. These plagues, these things that are happening specifically right now, I can't speak for any other place in history you want to compare it to, but right now, specifically these plagues, these things that's happening right now are all a result of plagues from God. COVID-19 definitely is a plague from God. July 1st, 2019, you passed your last child marriage law. By July 1st, 2020, COVID was everywhere. We was in summertime, COVID was everywhere. Everybody was aware of it. So less than a year after this last child marriage law was passed, COVID-19 came. August, September, October, November, December, January. 7 months later, you had COVID here. 7 months later, after the last child marriage law, COVID-19 was on the scene. Now, some of y'all, and I got to do a video about this, Some of y'all are not able to follow spiritual patterns, spiritual occurrences, spiritual happenings, spiritual rhythms in order for you to understand what God is doing and what the devil is doing. Now, you pass this last child marriage law. Look at the scenario for what it is. Listen. Look at the scenario for what it is. You pass this last child marriage law a year before COVID. That part just right there. Under the Trump administration, a person is trying to still run for office. How relevant is that? Right? How relevant is that? This law was passed under the Trump administration. Right here in your community in America. This was what was happening. While you was doing whatever you was doing in the summer of 2019, whatever you was doing, this is what was happening in the American government in 2019. That's 2019. Just in case my accent may throw you off. 2019. Under the Trump administration. This law in 9 to 12 states, 9+ states was passed. Now, I want you to think about that right there. Donald Trump's in office when this happens. And it's a year before COVID-19. I want you to think about that right there. While you're also thinking about the time frame, think about the essence of what I'm telling you. Don't lose essence. You got to put it all together. Don't lose the essence. The essence is it's a child marriage law to marry a child. It's passed under the Trump administration. It's passed a year before COVID. It's passed a year before COVID-19. It's serious. And it's serious because no one can tell me anybody passing a law under the Trump administration that's a child marriage law had a good reason to do it. No one can tell me a child marriage law to marry children passed a year before COVID-19, passed a year before COVID-19, had a right to do it. And here's why. Because the mentality is no different than it is today than it was in 2019. Are you terribly different in your perspective in 2022 than you was in 2019? Is your perspective any different 3 years ago? Just 3 years ago. Is your perspective any different? It's not, is it? It's too short of a time frame for our perspective collectively as a community to be any different. Okay, a decade, okay, maybe the mentality is slightly different. But 3 years? No, there's no excuse. People under the Trump, when the whole country, while Trump was in office, felt no differently about child sex and child marriage than they do now. So we magically changed in 2020 and started wanting people brought to justice that play with children sexually? We just started thinking this way in 2020? So then 2019, we were thinking the same way. In other words, your community did not agree with it in 2019. Your community would go crazy and want to kill pedophiles in 2019. And your community was witch hunting suspected pedophiles in 2019. Oh, they wasn't? Your country was playing pedophile entrapment operations games, what I call it, in 2019. Let's talk about it. Oh, y'all wasn't accusing people of being pedophiles in 2019? Y'all wasn't accusing people of being pedophiles under the Trump administration? Go Google it. Go Google all the stuff that happened in 2019. That's some homework for you. Go Google all the sexual accusations coming from either, the courts, the community, all of it, all the accusations of sexual crimes. Go look at all the accusations that was coming from the community in 2019. I want you to do that. I want you to look at all that was going on concerning sexual crimes, concerning specifically children. Let's leave the adults out of that homework. Go look and see what was going on with the children sexually as far as sex crimes in 2019. And when you get done doing that, I want you to also incorporate what I just told you. A child marriage law was passed. A child marriage law was passed. I have to do this because a lot of you think I'm talking about old laws. A lot of you think I'm talking about something that's been well established in the ancient landmarks of America. These are old landmarks. That's the problem, these old people. Well, 3 years ago wasn't dealing with the old people of America. That wasn't. And you know what? Those people are still around right now. Well, if they passed whoever passed the laws 3 years ago, I'm pretty sure they're not dead. So all of them are alive right now. You didn't think about that, did you? All of them are alive. Oh, so all of them just dropped dead after they made the laws? That would be ideal. That would be ideal for them to drop dead after passing child marriage laws. But they didn't, did they? And you know what they didn't. We both could conclude that probably isn't reality, right? They're probably still okay, doing okay. Probably still in the government. Won't you look up who passed the child marriage laws? July 1st, 2019. Who helped do that? Won't you go do that? Won't you let that be part of your homework too? The playtime is over. You want to know who the pedophiles are? I'm going to show you now. God is showing you. Yeah, you on the hunt. You got some fetish about the perspective and the psyche and the mindset of pedophiles. It intrigues you. Okay. Well, I'm gonna show you who's really doing it then. Your politicians. Last one was passed under the Trump administration. If you're so infatuated with them, there you go. Go look up the politicians that passed those laws. Because there's no person in the world that passes a child marriage law that says no minimum age. So look, here's the new part with this law. This is how it's more evil than the other laws. This law says no minimum age. No minimum age. Any age. Any age. That's worse than the age of consent being under 18 in 40 states. That's worse than that. That's worse than the established child marriage laws in 44 states. Because they have certain ages. This says, this last law, hear this part very closely. This last child marriage law says no minimum age, no certain age. That's worse. It doesn't give you a certain age. That's a 7. Now you see why I'm angry. Now you see why I'm aroused to anger. This last law doesn't give you any age. You see how evil they've become under the Trump administration. They passed the law now where the age don't even matter. It could be any age now. Anybody got something to say? I dare somebody try to move like they got a problem with me. When you got a law that just was passed under your Trump administration, under the Trump administration, you might as well say your Trump administration. You put them in there. And look what he let happen on his watch. Any age. They can marry any age now. 9 states still got it. You know how many counties in 9 states, just in case they thought they got it down? Or they reduced it to where it looks good. It still don't look good. 1 state would be horrible. You know how many? You know why? Because there's so many counties in 1 state. Anybody that's paying attention know that. Anybody that know geographics know that. You know how many counties there are in 1 state? You know how much land that is? Land for them to find and seek out and find children to marry. All that land to do that. All those counties to do that. 9 states with all those counties, all that land to search out your children. And this was done under the Trump administration. This is the emphasis. It was done under the Trump administration. Not George Bush, not Ronald Reagan, not Abraham Lincoln. Some of y'all act like these laws were passed under Abraham Lincoln administration. No. This last law was passed under the Trump administration that allows people to marry children in your American country. And you talking about God bless America. You think, listen. You don't think God sees the contradiction? You don't think God sees the hypocrisy in that? Every country shares a collective perspective. Hear this part. Through the culture. It's not your culture to marry children here in America. You can go to another country, maybe it is. But in your country, in America, it is no way the custom and no way the culture. Who's doing it? The closest thing you can think about is a polygamist. Polygamy, that's the closest thing. That's the closest thing. I ain't talking about them. Why did your government pass laws that don't match your culture and don't match the perspective of your people? Laws are for the people. Laws are for the citizens. So you have right to do this and rights to do that. So why are they giving you rights to something you don't agree with? That's a 7. Why are they giving you rights to do something, to marry children, and you don't agree with that? Why are they passing it for your culture and community and you don't agree with it? It's supposed to be for you. It ain't for them. So it's for you. So why is it passed and you don't agree with it? And it was passed under the Trump administration. And you don't think God seen that as sin and pedophilia? So how do you think God seen it? In 2019, under the Trump administration, that's a 7th album. How do you think the Trump administration seen this? How do you think God seen it? How do you think God Almighty seen that no one in the culture, no one in the community, it's not the customs and practices of your community to marry children. I want to marry children. God knows this. God is all knowing. So he knows that the American community specifically has no desire to marry children, right? He knows this. He knows nobody here really does. So why did the American government, knowing themselves that no one is talking about this in the culture and their customs, no one is showing no desire to do this, no one's showing acceptance of this perspective. So how do you think God's seeing what they did, knowing that these people here don't agree with it? That they themselves shouldn't even agree with it. Being American themselves, being of the culture and customs themselves, they shouldn't even agree with it. So how do you think God's seeing that? When they did something that they shouldn't even agree with, being the American government, very fluent in the culture of this country, very fluent in the customs of this country, that part. Very fluent in knowing the people, very fluent in knowing what they do, even sexually speaking, very fluent in knowing what they do. Well, you have to know what your people do sexually. If you're the government, so they just don't know. They just don't know what your preferences are. Well, they know about your preferences of wanting to marry gay people. They got that good. I'm just being 100. They knew, listen, that's just an example. I'm not going to go in on that. I'm leaving it right there. They knew your preference for wanting to marry gay people, right? They hit that right on target. Then why they way off with this one? So, in other words, they know what you do sexually. They know your preference sexually. They know what you want to do by law, right? They know what you want access to, obviously, when they've passed gay marriage laws in all 50 states. So that's based on your community, right? We can agree with that, right? Gay marriage is for the American community based on their preferences. Safe to say, right? So why is the child marriage law passed then? Huh? Why is the child marriage law passed? You see the different polar? This is an absolutely different polar. No one this is no one preference. This is no one's walking around talking about pedophile rights. No one's going around talking about child marriage rights. No one's walking around talking about advocating to marry children, are they? But we do see gay people advocating to get married. But we don't see no one showing an apparent public desire or avocation to marry children, do we? We don't see that, do we? We don't see anyone that has a desire to do it, do we? So then why did the American government take on itself the mission and the operations in numerous states to let you marry children at any age now? And guess when this law was passed? Under the Trump administration. So my next question to you is, what's the excuse for this? While you out here witch hunting, while you out here talking about who's doing what with children, I want you to answer this question. This is for the whole American community. What's the excuse for this? Any excuses for this? Anybody got any excuses for it? You don't, do you? But you got an excuse for why you playing around people you don't know what they did and you ain't seen them do it. You got excuses for that, huh? Oh, you heard. You act like you a child. You act like you in middle school. What we call middle school where I'm from. You in middle school? You in the 7th grade? You act like it. You going by what people said, like you in the 7th grade. Don't you know going by what other people say can get you killed? Don't you know that? I don't follow rumors. I don't follow hearsay. I don't follow ignorant communications. That's ignorance. And you know why? What makes it absolute, officially certified, solidified ignorance is you got 44 states with child marriage. You got a new law passed, a new child marriage law passed under the Trump administration that you don't even know about. Now you see how ignorant you look. And I don't care how classy you project yourselves. You look pretty ignorant right about now. And that goes for the conservative Republicans too. With the ruffle collars, you know, the ruffle blouse. You know the type, got the pearls on with the ruffle blouse. I'm talking to you. The one that looks like a librarian with a bun back in her hair. And she just thinks that it's just, she knows what a soup spoon is. She knows what a salad fork is. She knows all the protocols. She knows how to drink her tea, how to stir her tea without being ratchet. She knows how to do it all. She knows probably what side of the seat to come sit in on. She comes from a certain side, everything. That part. And she looking down on you when you in the restaurant. Well, let me help you with something. We're gonna call her Betsy. We're gonna call her Betsy. This is Republican, conservative Republican Betsy. This is Betsy. Betsy, did you know you got 44 states with child marriage in your country? I know you think you gotta help Americans and you think you got, you're a patriot, you got a flag right in front of you. We can barely get in your house because the flag is just hovering over the door. We can barely get in. Gotta watch that flag. It's a big one. She got a big one. She wouldn't have got the biggest one. She got that offline. She got the biggest one. Not you. You got the average size. She got the huge one. She got the one that drapes down in all seasons. Hey, it drapes and moves and flows in all seasons. That part. Well, Betsy, Republican Betsy, conservative Republican Betsy. Guess what I got? Guess what news I got for you? Your last child marriage law, your last American child marriage law, your last all-American child marriage law, all-American, I had to add that part. Well, it's American, it's all-American, ain't it? People like to say all American sometimes, just to make it a little more emphasis on American. It's all American. Well, this all American law, this all American child marriage law, Betsy, conservative Republican Betsy, was passed recently under a Republican Party. The Trump administration was a Republican Party. Where were you? Were you eating soup with your soup spoon? Huh? Were you stirring your tea just totally properly where there was no clinging of the spoon and against the china that you're drinking from? What were you doing? What were you doing, Republican Betsy? We needed you. You advocate, you're a sophisticated Karen. Yeah, that's sophisticated Karen right there. Republican conservative Betsy. She's conservative Karen. She's sophisticated Karen. She's the cultured Karen. Hey, it is what it is. Like I told people, I'm not racist, I'm just specific. Hey, if you're specifically doing something, how am I racist? It's you, it's your ethnicity, so how am I racist? I'm being specific according to who's specifically involved. Okay? So among you all, you are the most sophisticated, the more well-to-do, the more well-together. The conservative Republican, the white conservative Republican. It ain't the black conservative Republican that is the model for your country. The greatest model, hear this part very closely, y'all. The greatest model is not a man, and it's not a non-white person. It's not a black person. It's not a Hispanic or Latino. It's not, it's a white European American. It's not a male. It's not a tranny. It's not someone confused about their sexuality. It's not a bisexual man or woman. It's a woman, a female, born with a vagina. The model individual in your country, in my perspective, is the white American conservative Republican. Right or wrong, can't nobody touch her. If it's a man, well, she's a woman. Here in America, let's keep it 100. Women are worshipped. You worship the women. Look at the TV. Look at all the stuff. Look, I can tell you what you worship by looking at your commercials in your community. That's a 7 album. Yeah, you can say you're selling the product. I can show you what you worship that's selling the product. That's a 7. You could tell me what you worship, what you don't worship. I can show you. You could tell me it's selling products and you don't worship nothing. And I can look at those commercials and you talking about you selling the product, and whatever is selling that product, that's what you worship. Now I'm talking about on the average. Okay, you got this, that, and the third here and there. On the average, what do you see? Women and babies. You worship both. And God did not say in the Bible, thou shalt worship women. Thou shalt worship babies. And I'm going to tell you how you worship babies. You worship them when you put them in front of or above an innocent people or an innocent person. You just started child worship. You just started child worship when you're playing with an innocent person, and you're playing with, and you're using children objects and children things and children. You're a child worshiper because you put it before the laws of the universe. That's a 7 hour boom. Hey, you passed all the laws of the universe. You passed all the laws and the principles that we go by out here on these streets for children. You just started child worship right here in America, baby. This is child worship. It's based on your value system. Innocent people are above children when it comes to accusing them of doing certain things with children. If you put children above that and that person's innocent, you just started child worship. I don't care what you say. I base it on what you put first. I put on your value system. Not some spooky, hazy perspective. Some conspiracy theorist perspective. You put them above the innocent. That's child worship, buddy. Boom. By the way, while you think you're some heroic Batman character, you are in child worship. I hate it right there. Yeah. Because some of y'all, you act like you high on kids. You intoxicated. Something wrong with you. And the rest of you are worshipers of children, of women. You worship women. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Men and women. Both of you do it. Women do it too. I suspect a good portion of these women that are true lesbians or have lesbian tendencies, it started because of the worship of women in their community. I got to do a video on that too. Because you keep putting booty in somebody's face. Hey, eventually somebody's going to give in and just say, hey, I'm gay. Hey, I've seen enough. I know what I am now. That's what these girls do. I've seen enough. I'm gay. You keep putting it in front of them. They're human beings. You keep grooming them, putting titties in their face, butt in their face, camel toes here and there. Camel toes all on the internet. What you think these 18, 19-year-old girls think of that? Oh, wow. That's all she can say. And before you know it, 2 and 3 years later, you don't think as a human being, you don't think she done changed a little bit? Oh, okay. All right. You keep on keeping on. You keep on keeping on. And see, here's my greatest punchline. 44 states marrying children is another form of child worship. Boom. This last child marriage law passed under the Trump administration, that's another form of child worship. Well, no one agrees with it. So who erected this law? The child worshipers. That's closest I get to sounding like a conspiracy theorist. The child worshipers. They're the ones. Your whole community don't agree with it. So why did it happen? When it's not the perspective, the customs, and the culture of your American community. Because the child worshipers are real and they're here. Okay? In other words, people who put children before everything, they have this over-infatuation with them. I mean, it's okay to love children, right? But there's a line. There's a line, guys. There's a line. You shouldn't have your face buried in the crotch of a child. I don't care what you're talking about. Hey, buddy. Hey. You crossed the line. You burying your face in the crotch of a child? Look at him. Look how they wrestle around with children in the grass. She got her crotch all in your face, and you talking about what? You're child worshiping. That's what you're doing. And listen, I don't care how you think of me. I don't care how you see me. At the end of the day, I ain't out here hurting them. Guess who is? Guess who is these days? The parents. You telling me this ain't child worship? Well, hear this part. This gets deep. Well, with child worship comes child sacrifice now, doesn't it? I know you ain't like that. I hit something, didn't I? See, you worried, you thinking about it. You thinking crazy and strange stuff. Look at the parents that killed their children. They thought all this stuff, right? They always tell you this stuff they was thinking about. Why are you thinking about the children that much? I mean, on that level. And now you basically ultimately, you killed them, which some would say a sacrifice. Hey, it don't sound more like child worship than any other time, do it. I got to do this because you think being extremely close to children is extremely beautiful. No, you're extremely a child worshiper. That's what you are to me. And some of you will say, well, that's not me. Well, let's do the test. Let's find out. Let's see. Let's put you to the test then. Are you putting the well-being and the innocence of others beneath children? You know these people innocent. You know these people ain't doing nothing, but you still playing games? You are child worshipers. You infatuated with children? You always got to watch something on TV with children in it? And you're a fully grown person. Hey, you might be a child worshiper. You don't even desire to be around adults. You just want to be around children. Hey, maybe you a child worshiper. You say you there for the children and you support the children. I suspect that you are a child worshiper. That's what I suspect. You got some of these guys out here, and you know how you catch a football? And hear this part, isolated from the children, just for a minute. You know how a receiver catches a football and he dives and he catches the ball like that? That's how these people act when it comes to children, like they diving and catching the children. Yeah, look what I did. I just caught the children. Just like Kevin Hart say, I caught you. Talk about the pedophiles. Look, I caught you. I could have set that one up better. I caught you. You see that? I caught you. And then the other ones go to the extreme. Oh, you think you're a hero. You jumping over grass, catching children. You're a child worshiper. Some of you are. And then you got the other ones. See, can't you hear the prophetic in it? Can't you hear it? It's real. Then you got the other ones that you act like they your girlfriend. Like you in love with them. You a child worshiper. And then you got those, last but not least, that engage with them sexually. That engage with them literally sexually. You definitely are a child worshiper. And then if that wasn't good enough, then you got the American government just passed a law 3 years ago for child marriage law. You are the top of the child worshipers. You made laws for the other people to worship the children at their shrines. You have made the child shrines for all the Americans to worship at by passing laws that allows adults to marry children at any age. This isn't child worship to you? I know you didn't catch it, did you? It is. That's what it is. Based on the value system of these crazy people. And I covered all the different types. So just in case you think you ain't one, you one. You out here acting like you Batman and a vigilante for children. No, you ain't. You a child worshiper. If you was a vigilante for children, how come you ain't know about 44 states with child marriage? Boom, ow. How come you didn't know, vigilante, about child marriage laws here in America? If you're so vigilant about protecting children, if you're so diligent and zealous about it, how come you didn't know this then? See, if you, for the real child, the child protectors, the real ones, you would be doing what I'm doing. Well, hey, what other battle should we be fighting? Oh, you think going down here and catching the pedophile at the 7-Eleven is doing what, that's the top of what you're supposed to be doing. Going down to the 7-Eleven, trying to catch a pedophile. You would be doing exactly what I'm doing because there's nothing, what else are you going to do? What else is more important? That's how you know who's who. And that goes for the police. I ain't intimidated by them. I talk to them about it too. The last police I talked to told me, well, I hope it changes soon. Meanwhile, you're going and locking up child molesters. Meanwhile, they put you on the beat to watch out for the children. But you talking about you hope it changes soon. Isn't your job kind of in vain right about now? Isn't that putting the cart before the horse, like we say in the South? In other words, you got your priorities out of whack. So I can talk to whoever you want me to talk to. Who you want me to talk to who you're intimidated by. Okay, so here we go. Under the Trump administration, that's what we're going back to. Now we're going to examine the person and the persona of Trump. It interests many of you. Many of you watch him like it's entertainment. And I ain't gonna front. It kind of, even though he basically is public enemy number one, his shenanigans can be somewhat entertaining. Half of y'all watch him like this. That's why you don't dare do nothing to him. You know why? Because you either find him as entertaining or don't take him seriously. And with that psychology, I'm not saying it's genius, but with that psychology, none of y'all do nothing to the man. Because half of y'all just say, oh, he's a jerk. Well, he's more than a jerk. He had an intentional slow response to COVID. Did you know that? It was intentional for political points. Go look that up. Donald Trump intentionally had a slow response to COVID for political points. Meaning, half of these people, some of these people died because of Donald Trump putting y'all having a slow response. That man got blood all on his hands. Well, if you had a slow response, that means if you had a fast response, some of these people wouldn't be dead. Which means you got blood on your hands. Right or wrong? And he stole the election. We all know that now. Well, he tried to. This last one. And if that wasn't worse enough, with all the racist insinuations, racial insinuations, borderline racist, some would say, if that wasn't worse enough, on his watch, in his time in the White House, the last child marriage law was passed. Boom. Just when you thought he'd done enough. Now, doesn't it match his character? That's all I'm saying. It don't match his character. So out of all the people right now that's in the political spotlight, if you had to pick, okay, somebody was in the White House when child marriage laws were passed. Number one, Biden, Obama, or Trump? You're going with Trump. You're going with Trump, bottom line. And this is the reality. Now, we're going back to the persona and personality of Trump. You know how big this mouth man is. You know how big this man's mouth is. You know how big his mouth is. You know how crass he is. You know how he don't bite his tongue. Right? About nothing, right? You call that, see, a lot of the black community, y'all think he keeping it 100. He ain't keeping it no 100. He ain't keeping it no 100. Why he ain't say nothing about these child marriage laws passed under his administration? That would have been 100. And some people say, well, he was doing this and doing that. Nah. We ain't talking about attempts. We're talking about him verbally talking like he talks about everything else. Now, you see where I'm going with this? He's yapping about stuff he don't even need to be yapping about. But then when it comes to child marriage laws, we hear crickets. He doesn't say nothing. He said nothing. But look at his persona. Look at his personality. Think about all the stuff he said. Think about what he said about LeBron. Saying LeBron James looked basically stupid. Oh, you didn't know he said that? Go look that up. He said LeBron James looks stupid. Anybody who can make LeBron James look smart, talking about Don Lemon interviewing him, something to that effect. Talking about Don Lemon making him look smart because he thinks he looks stupid. He thinks LeBron James looks stupid. Now, does that have anything to do with politics, guys? This is where he lost me at. When he said that, I'm not even a big LeBron fan. I respect his humility based on his accolades. I think he's a humble person based on how people respect him and praise him and everything like that. But I wouldn't say I'm a diehard LeBron fan, but I have a good deal of respect for how he carry himself. You know what I mean? But that's where he lost me. When Donald Trump started talking about that, because at first I said, you know what? Everybody got to love Donald Trump. You can go look at my Facebook. I said it, and people must have think I was tripping. That was before he made this comment. But after he said, LeBron James basically looks stupid. Nah, I was like, I'm done with him. That was it. That's all he had to say because it had nothing to do with politics. It was nothing he had. It was really, he really didn't have to say nothing as the president. You know what I mean? You should show tougher skin. But he didn't do that. That's an example. Then Rosie O'Donnell. He said something about her. He's talking all about these things, acting like a superstar, not able to differentiate his fame that he had before he came to the White House from what he was doing presently. You're the commander-in-chief. You ain't got no business talking about all this. But people thought that was innovative for him to be putting his mouth on things and being involved in the community, right? But he got all these things to say, guys. Here's the punchline. He got all these things to say about LeBron and Rosie O'Donnell and all these other people and women and this, that, and the third, and what type of women he like and all of this and that and the third, right? But we hear nothing when it comes to child marriage laws passed under his administration. Let's go beyond the fact that whether you passed it or not. Let's go beyond that. Okay, maybe you didn't pass the law, but you say nothing? And this is your field. This is your field now. Laws are your field. It's your lane, per se, as the president, to be talking about laws and everything like that, right? How come he ain't say nothing about the child marriage laws? And all those rallies that he be holding. Think about it. All them rallies where he's ranting. I know you think I'm ranting, but look what he be doing. He go to all these rallies with a following similar to Adolf Hitler. Yeah, I know you think it's political. It's deeper than that, buddy. We'll be talking about that as time goes forward. As we advance, we'll be talking about that. But you don't hear him saying nothing about it, do you? Do you hear him say nothing about child marriage laws at those rallies, did you? At all those rallies he be holding. All those rallies. You ain't hear him say nothing at them rallies, did you? It makes you wonder. I'll say it like a New Yorker said. It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. He ain't say nothing about no child marriage laws, but he got everything to say about the culture, LeBron, Rosie O'Donnell, and everybody else. I probably could look up hundreds of other people he talked about. I'm just telling you about the one that made me step back from the man, wash my hands from him. Because you should have realized, talk about LeBron, that's like the equivalent of talking about Michael Jordan. That's like Reagan talking about Jordan. It's just not what you do. He's too culturally famous. That's like Ronald Reagan talking about Jordan. Like who? People would be like, what is he? What is he? That part, like what? You go to the future and get the that part term, like go come back. That part, man, dang. I went to the future to just get that term, come back. That part, what's wrong with you? All right, look. He did that, right? But he didn't have time to yap and complain about something we all would be happy that he's complaining about, which is these child marriage laws. Didn't say nothing about that. Didn't hear merely anything about this while he was in office. Did you hear anything about it? So this was a needle in a haystack kind of situation. That's what you're telling me. Like he just didn't know about it. Well, don't you think that the president of the United States gets a memo or email concerning every single law that's passed? Think about it. So you can't sit up and feed me that he didn't know about it. You can't feed me that. He at least, hear this part, he at least got some type of notification. If being in the White House is like the equivalent as the president having a Facebook account, you don't think he got a notification? You don't think he got a notification July 1st, 2019 that a child marriage law was passed? You don't think he got that notification? If him being the president was the equivalent of him having a Facebook account, you don't think he got a notification, like a Facebook notification, about the child marriage law passed? You don't think he got one? So it's safe to say he got some type of notification. That's all I'm saying. And he didn't say anything about it. Oh, you think he was being quiet? Loud as he is. You think he cared about being dangerous? You think he cared about all the stuff that you're giving him the benefit of the doubt about? All the ways you're giving him the benefit of the doubt, it does not apply concerning his persona and his character. Well, maybe he just didn't want to talk about it. He want to talk about everything else. He want to talk about LeBron. But he don't want to talk about laws passed at the White House or under the American government. He don't want to talk about that, but he want to talk about LeBron. That's what I'm trying to show you. You see how spooky it's getting? You see how spooky it's getting? Where the last child marriage law was passed under the Trump administration, and he said nothing. He said nothing to his followers. He would have been winning. That was the perfect, if he's stupid. He's the one that's stupid. He's always insinuating that Joe Biden is stupid. He's the one. He could have made his following even stronger if he had exposed that. If he had said, well, you know, they just passed child marriage laws. We got to do something about that. His whole following would have been like, yeah, we ain't know nothing about that. Trump's the man. But now look who has that following? Me. I took the following that Donald Trump didn't take. Pretty much. I took portions of the following that he didn't take. Because now people are feeling what I'm saying. They feeling my point of view. How you got Donald Trump in office, a child marriage law is passed, and big as that man's mouth is, he don't say nothing. He talking about everything else though. Sport athletes. But you don't talk about the child marriage laws. It's suspicious, right? It's a cover-up. You would think. He letting them do what they do, kind of thing. But we ain't never seen him act like that before, have we? He must have got scared. Hey, he must have got scared, huh? Because we definitely ain't hear him say nothing. Anybody heard him say something about child marriage laws? Maybe I missed it. But big as his mouth is, how can you miss it? How can you miss what this man be talking about? You can't. Everybody will talk about it, or you'll hear him say it yourself. How can you miss it? Now you see what I'm saying. So you know what that means? Unfortunately, he's one of them. He's one of them. He's one of them. He's one of them. Nah, that's too much of a liability. You're guilty by association with the American government that passed child marriage laws July 1st, 2019, big baby. Hey, you was the president, commander-in-chief, and child marriage laws were passed and you ain't say nothing. See, this is what I'm saying. If y'all don't become like this, you gonna have these politicians have y'all somewhere at a camp. Oh, you ain't gonna be going to, it ain't summer camp. You gonna be somewhere like a camp, man. You sitting up here letting them do every and anything right under your nose. These people are over you, saying nothing about what's being done, and you still following them. They're gonna have you in the camp behind barbed wire like you're in prison. And not too much longer, because you ain't saying nothing about what's being done. What? So you think it's gonna get better that way? You dreaming. It's not going to get better. I promise you it will not get better sitting back saying nothing. You're going to be behind barbed wire pretty soon. I'm telling you, all right? We've seen stranger things in our history, have we not? Okay then. Don't you ever sit back and act like nothing can't happen. Go look at history. That's all you need to do. And what people say, history repeats itself. And why does it usually repeat itself? When we have not learned from it. You still haven't learned from it. You're giving people all type of power over you, all type of authority over you, and you ain't even saying nothing about what they doing and not and doing. What they not doing and doing, you ain't saying nothing about it. And you're going to wake up one day in a prison camp talking about we shoulda, coulda, woulda, coulda, shoulda, when people could have helped you. And sometimes it gets to a point where it's too late. You can't keep saying, oh well, we could do keep hope alive. Yeah, you know what that means to me? Sometimes that hope can die. If you have to keep hope alive, or you telling people to keep hope alive, then that means it's a possibility hope can die. That's what it means to me. I'm not trying to be a smart jerk, but if, hey, you say keep hope alive, that means hope can die. And it's going to, if you sit back and you ignore all these things, you ignore all this stuff that's happening, and you sit back and you act like, well, what will be, will be. You sound like a hippie from the 70s. What will be, will be. This ain't 1972, buddy. Where you had a Camaro sitting around smoking a joint, drinking a bottle of Jack. Hey, this ain't 72, buddy. That's for all the baby boomers. Hey, this is not 72. Donald Trump sitting up here talking about everything, this, that, and the third, and you ain't heard him say nothing about child marriage, the last child marriage laws now. The last ones. I can see if some other ones were passed, but it's more of an emphasis on him when the last one was passed under his administration. Not after, not before, during his administration, when he was in office. And he ain't say nothing about it. That's controversial, isn't it? Isn't it controversial of a situation for anybody to talk about it? Other than me? But the president that was in office at that time when it was passed, the last child marriage law, he ain't say nothing. As big as his mouth is, it'd be one thing if he was a quiet guy, even docile guy, even passive guy. But he's not. And he said nothing. It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. And see, this is the way. I'm trying to show you this is the way. This is the way to the revolution, guys. I'm telling you. Ain't no other way. This is the way to the revolution. I'm trying to tell you.